Good.
Cool.
All right, welcome to the Pennsylvania Association for College Admission Counseling Virtual College Fair. My name is Becca and I'm facilitating this event. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions. There are some later tonight. This session is being recorded and will be available within about a week at strivescan.com/Pennsylvania. So now I'd like to turn it over to our presenters. Take it away.
Thank you, Becca. Why don't we start with some introductions? It's okay, I'll go first. My name is Josh Ditzki, and I'm the Director of College and Career Counseling at Berks Catholic High School. I am in year 15 or 14 of working on the high school side, and I work with all of our student athletes, and I'd say probably at least 2/3 of our Berks Catholic students are participating in some sort of athletics, and I will work with all of them at various levels in their college process, as well as their admission, as well as their athletic process, if they ask me to do so. I come from actually the college admissions side, where for 14 plus years, I worked as an admissions officer and also athletic liaison at a small Division I school in Maryland. And I'm actually, in addition to those things, I'm actually a dad in the process right now. I have 3 daughters. My oldest daughter's in college. My junior daughter is a field hockey and lacrosse goalie and is actively seeking to be recruited and being recruited to play lacrosse at the collegiate level. So I come at this from a variety of different perspectives. Daryl?
Thank you, Josh, and thank you all for joining us. I'm Daryl Jones, Senior Associate Director of Admissions at Gettysburg College, but I am also the Intercollegiate Athletics Liaison for a super competitive program in the Centennial Conference. I went through this process, as my friends here know, about 40 years ago when I was becoming an athlete at Penn State University, and serving as athletics liaison now, and also being a track and field coach, but also working with all the teams, means that I get to understand and share with my friends on this panel the kinds of pressures that you face, the things that you're feeling regarding curiosities, and the nervousness that might surround the process. I do have some relatives that have gone the Division I and the Division III route, and my way of talking to them is how we're going to talk to you today about making the right match. So again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I would like to pass it on to Derek.
Thanks, Daryl. My name is Derek Fox. I'm one of the Associate Directors of Admissions at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. We are a member of the Patriot League at the Division I level. I, like Daryl, serve as the athletics liaison in the admissions office. So I work with all of our 25 Division I coaching staffs across the board. I, like Daryl, not quite 40 years ago, but about 25 years ago, went through this process, former Division I athlete. So again, near and dear to my heart, the stressors and the anxiety that goes along with this process. And love having the opportunity to kind of meet with all of you and speak to you about this process, how it's changed, and answer any questions that you have. But again, I've been working in the admissions office as an athletics liaison for the past roughly 20 years at the college level. So again, pleasure to be here. Thanks for joining us. And with that, I will turn it over to Jim.
Great, thank you. So the third time is the charm as well, right? So I'm also the intercollegiate liaison to athletics and admissions at Temple University. I'm Jim Van Blunk, and I'm a senior associate director. I am more in Daryl's age range. So yes, some 40 years ago, I was running in circles around the track at a Division I program. I will tell you, to age me properly, they were cinder tracks back then. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that you guys are here. Like Josh, I have twin daughters who are at a Division I program. And I've also coached for just about 15 years, years ago at the Division I level, where my main responsibility was to recruit student athletes. So again, I think you have a great group of folks here today that are happy to share our ideas, thoughts, and really help you through the process. I think that's the goal. All right.
Excellent. And just to, because everybody else is kind of sort of sharing ages, I went through this process 30 to 35 years ago and was a wrestler at a Division I institution and also picked up rugby while I was there. So now to tell you this, I didn't wrestle at all before I got to college. So I have a soft spot for any student who might be out there going, I'd like to play my high school sport in college, but I also would pick something else up because I'm a big believer that if you want to try something, give it a try. But what we had talked about, and just so you all know, the four of us, and we actually have two other folks we present with. They are unfortunately, fortunate for their athletes. They are coaches and they are both in season. Jen Willis of Albright College and Lauren Cicchetti of Newman University, but they both had practice today and couldn't make it. What Derek, Jim, Daryl, and I talked about, and we are also friends, not just colleagues in this. So we have a lot of shared experiences that we'll share with you too. But what we had talked about was maybe just doing some big picture overview stuff of, just what some basic things are. What's the NCAA? What's the NAIA? How do you know if you're being recruited versus just kind of getting a mass email or, kind of a phishing letter, that type of thing. Maybe talk about some timelines and some helpful hints. But I think we would agree too that we'd also like to hear from you all. So use that chat function to type in questions. And what I'll do, guys, is if you want, I'll monitor the questions as they come in and maybe kind of help distribute them. But the four of us can talk until the technology explodes. We don't want to just talk at you. We want to know what you would like to know. So let's start with, let's maybe start with just some general terms in terms of NCAA. And, a lot of people are like, oh, I want D1 and don't always know what that means or what. So let's maybe talk a little about Division I, Division II, Division III differences, and then NAIA, which is filled with some great institutions and is an athletic conference, but doesn't always get the attention that the NCAA was. So, Daryl, I'm going to bounce back to you. Do you want to get us started on NCAA?
Sure. So, all of you see the blue logo and know that basically the overall body that looks at the entire collegiate athletic process, the National Collegiate Athletic Association governs all sports. And what I say to people is what their logo is. Most people, even at the most competitive level, which is known as Division I, become a professional at something other than their sport. So even though it is the most rigorous, I'm going to focus on really what it means to join, no matter the division, no matter the level, NAIA, NCAA, those sorts of things. There's going to be a lot of alphabet soup, but here's what you need to understand. Right now at Division III Gettysburg, I am actually doing something that we will talk about in a bit called the early read process, which is basically finding out who the coaches are interested in, who might be juniors right now, so people who will graduate in 2022. And I'm giving those coaches an idea of their athletic and academic viability by having the coach tell me about their athletic talent and interest, and me tell them what their academic viability might be. Because I'm, just like my friends here, involved in the actual decision-making process, what you can know is that in the process, it works this way. Coaches don't tell us who to admit. We don't tell them who starts, but it's where we work together that involves you. So what I tell people is that you should not get caught up in which division is what. You should not get caught up in being a holdout for a better offer. you should think more about this whole process starting now, wherever you are, even if you're in 9th or 10th grade, as I'm definitely going to college. I want to be an athlete. And if you definitely know you're going to college, you know that you need to make the right academic fit, you need to make the right personal fit, and then you literally need to look at the athletic piece as an important piece of your life, but not to feel rushed to make a commitment. So before I turn it back to you, Josh, one of the things that I want students and families to know is that the process of finding the right fit is important. And yes, there's another layer when it comes to choosing athletics, but really it's okay for you as students to start looking at athletic websites on individual colleges and universities right now, just to see what the culture of the departments might be, who the coaches are, what their backgrounds are, and what the success of the teams might be. And in many cases, you'll be asked to fill out some sort of questionnaire that tells us about you academically, athletically, personally, and otherwise. And then if you have sufficient evidence of athletic talent, that is when coaches actually can become interested in you. But that process, again, for Division III, for people who are graduating a year and a half from now, so in 2022, has already started.
Josh, if I can jump in, and I think one of the other things we always talk about is, as Daryl was mentioning, I want to say it, fit versus feel, right? It feels good to hear, oh, Division I, that feels good, but that doesn't mean it's the right fit for you, because there's more than just the athletic piece. There's the academic fit. There's where's it located? What's the size? I mean, we can all speak to, there are Division II and Division III programs that can defeat Division I programs. Just because they're Division I doesn't mean it's the end all be all. And that fit could be Division I. Well, Division I sitting on the bench for 4 years, just being a part of the team, or Division II or Division III, where you are an integral part of that team and their success, and you're on the field and you're competing. So again, it's a matter of really kind of looking at yourself in the mirror, figuring out your own abilities and your own talents and where that fits with the collegiate level. And that means hard conversations sometimes with coaches, but conversations that we all believe that are very important to ask. Because if you don't ask, you're not really going to know what the situation might be. And you wouldn't want to go somewhere with the assumption that you're going to be an integral part of that team, and then you're unhappy. And then what happens? Do you stick it out? Do you stay there unhappy? Do you transfer? And that the transferring process opens up a whole nother can of worms and makes it even more complicated. So again, it's really looking at that fit piece more than just the athletic lens. It's the academic, it's the size, it's the location. If your mom and dad are with you today, or if your mom and dad are having these conversations, it's the monetary piece, right? Financially, what does it mean? Because while a Division I and Division II schools offer athletic scholarships, many times Division III schools offer, while they don't offer athletic scholarships, they may be more generous and may have more opportunities when it comes to academic scholarships. So again, there's a lot of different things to sift through here that you really kind of need to keep aware of. And the more you hear about these things and the more you inquire and the more you ask, the more understanding you'll have and the more comfortable you'll be navigating this process.
Yeah, and just to piggyback once again, not only on the fit, but the piece that's your responsibility, and that's doing the research. Just as you would if you weren't interested in athletics, it's really important to do the research about these institutions that you may or may not have an interest in. Something as simple as going to the school's sport website and looking at your sports roster. If you're a goalkeeper and there are 3 goalkeepers already on the roster and none of them are seniors, and you expect to play, then you either truly, truly believe in your abilities or maybe not so much, right? So things like that help you and help prepare you for some of those conversations that you're going to have, not only with, internally with your family, but with those coaches as well. It's really, really important, that research be done. And eventually you'll come to the conclusion of which division might be the best fit for you overall. And to Daryl's point about, do you want to play? Do you want to be on the field? Do you not want to be on the field? Look, there are some people who are happy to be a part of a NCAA championship team that they have never, ever played for unless their team was up 50 or down 50 with 30 seconds to go. There are people who like that, and that's okay with them. So again, it's about your individual fit. You can't listen necessarily to all the noise of your friends and other people around you about what's best for you. Only you know what's best for you, and you'll come to it. You might be anxious now because you're just starting the process and you're not sure how this is all gonna turn out. If you do your research and you have the right conversations and ask the right questions at the right places, it works out, generally speaking, pretty well.
I would say too, and then we have some questions coming up that I think it's a good time to address, but I would say too, piggybacking off of what Daryl, Jim, and Derek said, that we go to that fit. And this is, this may be, folks at home, the first time you're hearing this, or maybe like, oh, people said it before, or you might be going like, these four guys are drilling this, like why? It really is important, the athletic fit. But I'll say too, again, going through this as a dad, there's a campus fit too, and an academic fit. So, I've been on the road with my own daughter the past couple of months. We were at a school 8 hours away. The week before, we were at a school 4 hours away, and we were at a school an hour away that have all invited her out. And she is, at this point, it's like 8 hours might be too far. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of differences. So, if a school is 8, 10, 12 hours away, but it's Division I and your goal is to play Division I and they have interest, can you, in your mind and heart, balance that, but I'm going to be 8 or 10 or 12 hours away? Or would I rather be at a really good Division III program or Division II program that's a lot closer? So those are real things to consider. And like everybody said, are you going to be somebody who is going to be content to maybe not see playing time or fight to even make the team? Or do you want to be the man or woman on that team in that position? Or, ask that question to the coach. Where do you see me, on your team? How do I fit into your program? The other big piece of this that, doesn't get picked up in the Twitterverse when everybody's like, Coach, thanks for the offer, or I committed, and I get it. And I've said to my daughter, I'm like, don't, I know everybody's doing it. Don't worry about getting into all that. And I know coaches will ask you to do that sometimes too. And I get that, to promote and be like, listen, can you promote that you were here? I get all that. I get sometimes the quote reality is what's on social media. But, the other big piece, the thing that doesn't get talked about a lot, is the academic fit. If you think you want to major in engineering or nursing or something specific like that, and you have schools recruiting you that don't have engineering or nursing, you've got to decide, one, is it, do I really want to be an engineer or a nurse, or do I really want to play the sport? And if you really want to be an engineer or a nurse, which is going to carry you through a lifetime versus the next 4 years, then you probably don't want to be looking at schools that don't have those programs. If you're kind of like up in the air, then I think it's okay to be open. But the other piece too is, and I do this every time I meet with one of my juniors, to do their college planning meeting, we talk about the athletes, that is, we talk about coaches that have reached out to them, where their interest is, and then what's the academic fit. I'll use, Daryl's institution as an example. Gettysburg might be looking at one of my students or you as an athletic recruit. But if your grades aren't at a certain level, that coach can love you all they want. They might on their own say, you know what, I can't recruit you. Or Daryl might go, you know what, you've got to get somebody with stronger curriculum, better grades. Derek and Jim the same. Lehigh and another similar Division I institution, are going to be looking at very different things. Temple and other Division I institutions every school is different academically, even within the same athletic conference. So understand where you fit academically in relation to what that coach is saying. And what I would say as a counselor is make sure you connect not just with the coach, but with a Derek or a Jim or a Daryl, because they're going to be able to tell you the academic piece. Before we get to these questions, real quick, Derek, do you guys want to talk maybe a little bit about the academic expectations in terms of curriculum, in terms of not just the NCAA curriculum for qualification, but your curriculum as well?
Well, and yeah, absolutely. And what I was going to start with is the idea of students, most of you juniors, sophomores, younger, the stronger you are academically, the more opportunities and options you're going to have, because coaches on the college campus don't want academic risky students that they're going to have to worry about babysitting, making sure they're getting the work done, making sure they're making their assignments done on time and all of that, because that takes time away from practice, preparation, and game time. So the stronger you are academically, the more attractive you are right off the bat to coaches if you're playing sports year round and things like that. So that's the first piece. As Josh had said, as far as academic, profiles and what we're looking for, when I'm doing pre-reads with our coaches, it's your high school transcript. It's what have you done for, 3 years, 4 years, whatever's presented to us, depending on the sport. And, our favorite phrase is it depends, right? It's going to depend. Everybody's different. I know some of the questions, there was volleyball, there was golf, there was track and field. Every sport at every level is on a different timeline. So again, what was mentioned earlier is don't get into the habit of comparing yourself to a friend of yours who might specifically be in a different sport. The timelines are going to be different. But that academic read, what we're looking for is, specific to Lehigh. I mean, I'm looking for students who have, over their high school career, challenged themselves in the classroom, taking challenging curriculum, honors, AP, IB level courses, and they're successful in those courses. It's not a cutoff of, I need to see this GPA. I need to see this, test score if a school's not test optional, whatever the case may be. And again, those are questions you can ask. And as Josh had said, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. But I'm looking for students that can handle the work at Lehigh, because we would not be doing our jobs if we bring students to our campus who are not successful academically first and foremost, because you are no good to the athletic program and to the team if you can't do the work and handle the academic course load. The other thing is you all go to different high schools. We know that. You are not compared to students that go to different high schools. Every high school has different grades, different grading scales, different course offerings. Some schools say we don't offer AP classes because we don't teach them. All of our courses are taught at that level, but they're not, indicated that. Okay, that's fine. That's not going to be held against you. Again, it's all contextual as we go through this. So the best thing you can do for yourself, again, is through high school, continue academically to challenge yourself to the best of your ability. Okay, and I'm going to say more doesn't mean better, right? More AP classes doesn't mean more options and opportunities if you can't handle that work. And that's where your high school counselor comes into play. That's where looking in the mirror and knowing your own abilities comes into play. Don't overwhelm yourself and do poorly academically, thinking that more AP classes means better opportunities if you can't handle the work. So again, that needs to be a delicate kind of, balancing act of what you can do academically.
But Derek, here's something that you've said before, and I love it when you say it. I'm paraphrasing. Meeting your high school's graduation requirements or the NCAA requirements for minimums on the number of courses does not make you a competitive applicant, especially for any place. So, you already used my favorite phrase, which is coaches don't want to babysit. But let's think, and I'd like to hear from Jim on this. Temple football is major college football, but a coach wants you to play for the season, not 2 games and then become ineligible. So a lot of it is training your minds as well as you train your bodies so that, again, you are desirable to a coach to have in their pipeline. But Jim, what would you say, at the larger end revenue producing area, what should people really be thinking about there, and what things would take them out of the running for a place like yours?
Yeah, I think it's no different, honestly, with regard to the academic piece. We want to see that you're prepared to be successful at the collegiate level. And the best way we know to judge that is by what you've done in high school. I think what I would add to what Derek said is that we also kind of look at trends. Sometimes you get off to a great start, 9th and 10th grade, you're a great student. And then that coach comes along and says, you're in, we do the pre-read, you're in, things are great. And then you decide to, I don't know, stop going to class or stop studying. And all of a sudden those grades plummet. And then we say, whoa, back up the truck. We gotta take another look at this. Right. So we're going to look at those things. We're going to look at your trends. What were you like as a freshman student, as a sophomore student? I think being at this level of Division I, especially football wise, the most important thing is, can we measure a way already that you manage your time? Because that is an amazingly good skill to have, because it is a serious time commitment. The Division I level is really a serious time commitment, and you have to be able to balance, that strong academic work with the athletic piece that we're going to ask of you. And both are going to be challenges because you're going to be doing it at a different level. You're going to be in a level academically, classroom wise, that may be a lot more challenging than it was in high school. Certainly athletically, it's going to be challenging because everybody's in the same boat. They were all really, really good athletes in high school, right? I think the biggest thing is if you haven't reached out or have been spoken to by one of our coaches, then it's going to be a long road for you to get on a roster at a school like Temple. I'm not saying that most of our athletes are scholarship, though they are. And I'm not saying that you can't be that walk-on that shows up, but you can't be that walk-on that shows up the first day of class. There has to be some communication before that for you to be able to, have a reasonable chance to make the roster. And again, it's about looking yourself in the mirror and deciding whether or not you're good enough. And does the coach think that you're good enough? And that's really hard to hear. I mean, it's really hard, especially as a parent. I've just gone through this as a parent, and it's hard to sit down with your kid and say, I don't know that I see it, honey. I don't know that I see it. And that either makes your kid really determined to prove you wrong yet again, or you get the reality check. But I wanted, it was mentioned earlier, and it's worth repeating. Just because it's a Division II or a Division III program does not mean it's not competitive. It doesn't mean that. I can tell you right now that Haverford College's cross country and track teams are as good as a lot of Division I programs in the country, and they're Division III, just as a local example. That's not what it means. So I think you need to academically, you need to prepare yourself. And you also have to understand, we might be getting into this, Josh, I hope I'm not jumping too far ahead, but there is the admissions process, right? Just because you sent your transcripts to the coach does not mean the admissions office has them or wants them from the coach, because we don't. We want them from your school. So there is a distinct, separate process to being recruited as an athlete via the coach and applying for admission to a school or university. So,
Agree.
Just real quick, Josh, I know we want to jump to questions, but I'm channeling my inner Lauren because she's not here. And I think it's also important to share with you all, just because you might have a coach reach out to you and you might look at that school's name and go, who? Yeah. Just because the school's not on ESPN doesn't mean that it might not be the right fit for you. Don't discount a school just because you may have never heard of them before. Right. You want to do your research. If that coach reached out to you, they reached out to you for a reason. You want to at least research it and find out what it's all about. Don't discount that. just because they're not on ESPN or it's not a bumper sticker you've seen or whatever. Again, you want to make sure that you're managing your own expectations, but don't close doors on opportunities that just because you don't know the name of the school.
I agree 100%. Absolutely. Because we only have about 15 minutes left, and I understand there's a hard stop. Let's maybe address some questions. I'm going to go in order. So Andrew asked about golf. I will tell you, I'm a horrible golfer. These guys have seen me golf, so I'm not gonna. But what I'll say is this: but I have kids who've gone off and golfed in college, mainly guys, although we have some girls who've been recruited to golf. I think what I would say, Andrew, is there are certain sports that are measurable sports. As my friend Daryl says, stopwatch, tape measure. You're measured by a score, or I guess by your average score. And I think you're probably also measured by the difficulty of the courses you've played. My recommendation, and this actually goes to everybody who asked questions and listening, because a couple questions were like, well, I'm a junior, how do I start? How do I start getting recruited? Whatever it is, you start in reverse. Instead of looking at what golf schools there are, look at meet with your counselor at school. If you've been assigned, if you're a school that has like Naviance or Maya or Score, or one of those schools that have, search engines with college search, or even just go to College Board's Big Future and you can do it for free. You don't have to belong. You can do college searches and plug in criteria that you would like in addition to the sport. So I would say meet with your counselor, do some research like these guys have said on what you want in colleges beyond, but in addition to the sport, and then start reaching out and looking at those schools and looking at the golf roster. If they have scores, team scores, how do you compare with some of those players? And then reach out, if you can get your counselor to help you, or if on your own, fill out the prospective athlete questionnaire, right? And reach out to find out who your admissions officer is, and reach out to them, your admissions officer being who recruits from your high school or geographic region. Reach out to them and introduce yourself and let them know that you've connected with the coach. So golf, again, like I said, I have a senior this year. He's being recruited to play golf at the Division III level, and it's only at schools where they have interactive media and game design, which is what he wants. And so we looked at schools, and he helped guide me through golf. He's like, okay, this is my my average, this is my handicap. I'm looking at schools with these similar things. I'm like, all right, you got to find the golf match, the golf piece. I'll help you find the academic piece. I would say too, Andrew and Colin, ask your coach. Ask maybe the pro you train under, or ask your high school coach, what level do you see me playing at? Because they'll probably have a pretty good perspective.
The other thing, Josh, and this jumps to some of the other questions, and it looks like there was a few students who, maybe you don't believe you're as competitive, or you've just started playing a sport. What happens with the recruitment process? There's varying levels of competition, not just Division I, II, and III, but club sports. So club sports are a competitive way of continuing to play and compete against other colleges and universities at the club level. So while it might not be Division I, II, or III, if it's just starting off and you don't want that really uber time commitment where it's like, oh my gosh, this is too overwhelming for me, but you still want to compete, play, have fun, and have that piece, there are opportunities on college campuses at the club level to try that as well. So don't think that it's Division I, II, or III or bust. Like, it's not NCAA or bust. There are opportunities for you to compete athletically on a college campus, regardless of level, expertise, talent level, and things like that. So that's where, again, we're going to go back to you doing some research on your own and kind of taking control of this process. There are opportunities for you that are beyond just the NCAA level, potentially.
Right.
Yeah. And just to piggyback, that's my one daughter. I have twins. One is a varsity Division I athlete, and the other one said, you can keep that. I'm an engineering major. I don't need that stress. She's on a club team, and she gets to travel and do things and compete against other colleges at the club level. And she absolutely loves it. because it's a lot of people that have never done the sport before, including her. She's a triathlete. Who knew?
I would say that so Angelina has and this, I want to go back to this question because Andrew had another question about time commitment, Division 1, 2, and 3. Angelina had a question about track and field and said that she wants to participate, but hasn't. And so since we have 2 track and field pros on here, and coaches, former coaches, again, they're distance and time sports. So what do you recommend, Daryl and Jim?
Part of what I tell people is that you have to get something, again, as you mentioned, Josh, that is measurable so that we know that your talent level. Some colleges and universities will allow walk-ons for track and field or cross country, and some others aren't. But this goes to a question that Andrew asked about, how do I get in contact with a coach? Get onto the website because coaches have email addresses or coaches have
You're frozen, Daryl.
I can jump in and finish his thought. But yeah, I think you have to get a measurable mark of some sort. So I think as you begin the process of competing, then coaches will be able to see that. But definitely reach out. Every school has a website for their athletics, and every sport at that school has a web page and lists their roster and lists the coaches and lists who the recruiting coordinator is. And most of them probably have a questionnaire that you can complete and send back into them. Again, it's a little bit easier when it's measurable, but yeah, that's what I would say to follow up with Daryl's points.
Yeah, and again, some of those sports, it might start with depending on your age and depending on what grade level you are, it might start with a questionnaire where they just ask some basic information, and that starts the correspondence back and forth where they're able to gather more information, again, depending on what sport you are, depending on the time frame of the recruitment process. But all of that information is absolutely available on the sports websites for sure.
I would say, so I want to jump to Isabella's question, and I want to go back to that commitment piece because I think it's gonna vary, and we have a couple other questions. And I actually put folks at home, I actually put my email address in, and I don't want to speak for the rest of the panel, but if we get cut off or this ends, I'm happy to continue to answer questions if you want to email me. And I think, we probably all would be happy to help you can use that email to contact me if this session ends abruptly. So Isabella asks if recruiters are looking at videos on best plays and highlight videos, and your team does it. Hey, he's back.
Not really sure what happened there, but my whole computer system crashed. But what I wanted to finish with is simply this. Be someone that a coach desires by getting the times or the performances or having the ability. So I don't know what year you are, but you need to show the ability to compete at the right level so that your times and your ability over the course of several competitions either show the absolute talent that someone wants or the potential through your improvement. Sorry about that, folks.
All right. We were addressing Angelina's question Isabella's question about volleyball. So volleyball player doesn't have video or film highlights and things like that to send. We have a strong girls volleyball program and send our girls off to play, a lot. And I know a lot of that happens during club season, the travel volleyball. What I would say is, and again, I want to, speak quickly and have you guys, follow up with your own thoughts. We did this session last spring and we had a lot of coaches on. We talked about, again, with the spring season being gone, what do you do if you don't have video? What I would say, Isabella, is, even if it's, get a parent or team manager to take their phone and just do a couple minutes of video. A coach doesn't want to see an entire game or match or what have you, but if you can get a couple of things in at various, I use lacrosse because I help coach girls lacrosse. Coaches have told me they want to see, both ends of the field. They want to see little bits here and there and whatever. I would say too, if you can even do some small ball stuff, like Get some video at practice. Get some video, maybe in a inter squad scrimmage or something like that. Anything that you can put in front of a coach, even if it's not a full highlight video. And I think we'd all agree, you also don't need 30 minutes of highlight video with music and graphics, whatever, just a few minutes. Anybody?
And I would say more than just volleyball. I would say any sport, because I saw that the most recent question was about same thing about soccer, not having the ability to have any highlights or videos. That goes with any sport. Take that opportunity, but also reach out to the college coach yourself and ask them, because some coaches might not really use video. They might rather speak to one of your coaches instead. And use other means to get an evaluation on you as opposed to just video. So again, I mentioned earlier, it depends. It truly does. Every coach, every sport, every college or university are different in how they handle it. Some are more willing to take on video. Others might just be like, what, video, it doesn't help me. I'd rather see, I'm a soccer player, rather see what you're doing, not just on the ball, but also off the ball. Like, I don't care where the ball is. It might be the other end. What are you doing as a defender when the ball's on the other end? I don't really care. So those are the things that when students really get these videos together, they think that it's only when the ball's around you, what's happening. And some coaches want to know what's happening when you're not around where the ball is and where everything is. So again, it's going to depend. And what you can do is really ask, and that's going to help yourself so much more.
Yeah. So we, Colin had asked the question earlier, and I think I adjusted a little bit, but I think it goes to, Colin asked a question about what do I do if I'm not, if I haven't started the process yet, I'm a junior. This also goes to some of the other questions that are asked. You want to find those good academic fits, school-wise, reach out to coaches. I'll tell you too, I know because I help our kids, our students at my high school, with the recruitment process. I always offer myself as a resource to a coach, because usually my athletes reach out and they go, okay, Mr. D, can you send my unofficial transcript to coach so-and-so? I do that electronically, and I'll say to every coach, I'm happy to talk to you about them as a kid. I'm also seeing it too, again, in my own home, that if a coach reaches out and wants to talk to you and your family, they want to have a conversation, they already know what you're like athletically. The other piece is, what kind of person are you? Are you full of yourself or are you humble? I got a football player on my team. We have a pretty successful football program. I got a football player as a junior. He's a tremendous athlete. And he was interviewed recently, and somebody asked him what position he played. And he's like, I usually play corner, or I'll play here, I'll play there. And then he dropped this line, and he means it from his heart. He goes, I'll play wherever my team needs me to play. Boom. And I said, I'm like, that's exactly what a coach wants to hear. Because he's a kid who athletically is very gifted and could be like, oh, I'm only playing here, whatever. He's like, I'll play wherever my coach and my team needs me. That's a huge, huge piece. Lena asked a question about, if I'm a good academic fit for school, but a little less competitive for the athletic side, is it still worth trying to get recruited for the college? And Lena's a tennis player. I know I have, in fact, I'm working with two of my senior tennis players now. I know that tennis, they're based a lot on rankings, especially at Division I, Division II, and even Division III. I would say though, Lena, if you're a really good academic fit, I think that makes you much more recruitable for a coach, because they don't have to fight with you. Derek, Jim, Daryl? Uh-oh.
I agree completely.
Agreed. Yeah. And I know if it's a hard stop, we got like less than a minute. So I don't want to necessarily get cut off either.
Time commitment, Division I, Division II, Division III, I think it's going to depend. Do you guys want to speak to that? Because you're directly involved.
Well, I think it's time. So you can contact us directly. We'll be glad to answer your questions.
All right, everyone. Just going to share my screen so quickly. We are at time. Thank you so much for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a very quick 4-question survey, and we'd appreciate any feedback that you can provide. Also, this was just one of many sessions being hosted today, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions. In about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all of the other session recordings at strivescan.com/Pennsylvania. Thank you so much to our panelists for sharing your time and all of your thoughts. Thank you so much to the students and participants for viewing, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.